Part 1. So I'm aware that a lot of women, straight women or what have you, like in the suburbs, are Republicans. I'm not one of them, nor have I ever been. I didn't know which party I identified with when I was younger. I didn't even think about it. But I did know that I didn't care one way or another what people were up to, or, which way they swung, in quotes, like how they identify. Like, those things didn't bother me. Like, once again, let me go over this. So there was a young woman who worked at a soccer store in Mountain View, and she was not straight. And I remember going to the soccer store with my mom. We bought a pair of shorts, or, bought a pair of shorts for me. And my mom mentioned to me that this young lady wasn't straight. And in response, I said, who cares? I mean, as long as she's not harming anyone else, and whatever is taking place between her and whoever she's with is consensual, then who cares? Like, I mean, if her and her partner are happy, then let them be happy. It's not like, harming anyone else. And, for all I know, my mom could have just been trying to figure out, like, where I stood, not only on the issue, but just where I stood personally. And then at one point I was, I think, like watching TV or something, or in the family room, and my mom and her mom, my Mormor, were in the family room with me, and the subject came up again, and I said, who cares? What if I wasn't straight? And my mom and her mom told me that they would love me anyway, but, they would hope that I would be straight, but they would still love me. So who cares? Like, literally, who cares? And I didn't think, okay, I'm a Democrat at that point, or I'm a Republican, or I'm a libertarian, or I'm independent. I was a kid, for Pete's sake. I wasn't even allowed to vote at that point. So let's fast forward to high school. So there was another young lady that, it turns out, Nora, isn't straight. And, like, she came out to me, so I don't think she cares. She played the trumpet, and I kind of always suspected in high school that she wasn't straight. And, like, I guess people didn't know how I felt about that issue, and just automatically assumed that I was going to be anti-LGBTQIA, but I'm not. Like, I'm 100%, an ally of LGBTQIA, and I always have been. And I know John Pien is not straight, and that I would have never guessed, not in a million years. I just thought he was kind of a jerk. Sorry, John, you acted like you were a jerk, and I didn't know that you weren't straight. So then let's go off on another tangent here. So Jeff Feinberg, the attorney, the corrupt attorney, the myredbook.com attorney, he had a friend that I met at one point that worked for The Gap, a female friend, who was not somebody that he was interested in. And John Pien works for the Gap now, or did as of a few years ago, last I checked. And then turns out that the wife of Ed Barberini, who was like chief of police, I think, in East Palo Alto, and that had worked for the Burlingame Police Department, his wife works for the Gap, or worked for the Gap. And I'm pretty sure all three of those people, Jeff, John Pien, and Ed Barberini, they all know one another. And Ed Barberini, for sure, is a Republican. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Definitely a Republican. Well read, but a Republican. Oh, I'm just thinking about things right now. Then there was a time that at Reddit Head, RDDEH, I don't know how he spells it on Twitter. I have no idea, but or not right now anyway. I'm just barely awake. So Jeff Feinberg and I went to a friend of his house in Oakland, right down the street from Mills College, which was a women's college at that point, where, the grandfather of myredbook Republican felons at George W. Herbert, and Richard Lyon Herbert was a chemistry professor. Anyway, so Jeff and I went to some kind of party over at this house, and maybe it was a birthday party, I don't know. And the women, it turned out that it was a thing where, the women weren't straight. They were in a relationship together, and that's fine with me. But I mean, like, Jeff didn't give me the heads up on that or anything, and I kind of felt like it was just another situation where people were trying to figure out, like, where I stand and what my orientation is. And that's literally nobody's business. It's not that I'm in the closet or that, I'm trying to hide anything. It's just, I feel like if people want to keep their orientation or sexuality or whatever to themselves, then they have that right. It is nobody's business. It has nothing to do with being in the closet. It's like, your medical records. Your medical records are your business. They're nobody else's business. And, that's fine. Like, I'm an ally. I am definitely an ally of LGBTQIA. And I'm not going to hide that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. Yeah. And then for my birthday, I think my 30th birthday, I'm not too sure, but one of my birthdays, like, Jeff and I went to Santa Cruz, and like, I just felt that was a little bit extravagant. Like, not that I didn't appreciate it, just that I didn't need it. I didn't need some extravagant birthday. And then from Santa Cruz, he wanted to go to Monterey, to the Monterey Aquarium. And I was really uncomfortable with that. And he knew that I was uncomfortable. I don't know why we didn't buy tickets directly from the aquarium, but we went someplace in Monterey, I think, to buy the tickets. And we were standing in line. It was a fairly long line. And, I just didn't want to be there. I really didn't want to be there. I've been to the Monterey Bay Aquarium several times in my life, and I just didn't want to be in the same city, town, or location or anything as the myredbook.com Republican felon Herbert family members. Like, I just didn't want to be there. And Jeff just refused to back down on that. And it just wasn't okay with me. It was never okay with me. Then there was like the time that, Jeff bought a PlayStation 2, I think it was. And I never mentioned that I had any interest in playing video games or that I had played video games ever in my life. Like, I mean, growing up, definitely. When I was a kid, we had Atari and we had Nintendo, and, I played like King's Quest and Space Quest on my parents' computers in their office when they weren't on their computers. But I never said anything about that to Jeff. So, like, when he bought that PlayStation 2, I just assumed that, like, he bought it for himself. But then we were playing, like, Grand Theft Auto, and I thought it was a fun game. I thought it was a really fun game. And, like, it's a way to get your frustration out without, causing any harm to anybody else. It's just a game. And so one day Jeff left for work, and I had asked him, just out of politeness or whatever, like, do you mind, what happens if I solve the GTA game? And he was like, go ahead, solve it. Like, I don't care. And I took him at his word. I took him at his word that he was okay with that. And so I solved it, and then he came home later in the afternoon, like, or, early in the evening, around 4 or 5 in the afternoon or evening, whatever you want to call it. And he proceeded to get upset with the fact that I had solved it. And I was like, you told me it was okay for me to solve it. I asked you, you said you didn't mind, and now you're upset. You can't have it both ways. And I'm not a mind reader. In addition to that, like, it was the same kind of thing with him that I went through with Eric, where I just could not have any space to myself. Like, I just had no space. Like, and Eric and I weren't dating. Again, we were not dating. Jeff, at first he worked in San Francisco. And I guess what he told me is, he didn't want to be a partner at the law firm. It would have required a lot more hours, and he just didn't want to do that, which is fine. But so I would go to San Francisco sometimes with him, and I'd spend the day like shopping in San Francisco, which was just so boring. And I'm not somebody that, likes to spend my day at a mall, or, just shopping, period, like all day. And then Jeff moved on to another job. And of course, like, that was a 10-minute drive from the apartment in Burlingame. And I mean, he readily admitted, like, he went and got that job so he could just come back to the apartment at any point and check on me. And I mean, it's just like a controlling situation where I just had, again, no space, no personal space, no, like, I couldn't be by myself. I had no right to have any time to myself or spend time by myself. And that's just not acceptable to me. That's not okay. And, when I was with Jeff at that point, like I was attending therapy at the Rape Crisis Center in Burlingame by myself, and I paid for it. Nobody paid for it except for me. My parents didn't pay for it. Jeff didn't pay for it. I paid for it. And, I wasn't required to be there by any court order or anything like that. Like, I just knew I needed to be there. And I discussed the situation with my therapist as far as like not having any personal space is concerned and not being able to spend any time by myself and stuff. And she agreed with me that that's not a healthy relationship where like you don't have any right to be by yourself and you don't have any right to spend time by yourself. That's just not healthy. So that's not crazy thinking. I don't know. And like as far as my orientation or sexuality is concerned or whatever, like I said, I think that everybody has a right to, share it if they want to or keep it to themselves. I mean, like I said, I think it's like your medical records. Those are yours and yours alone. And nobody has a right to your medical records. That's my personal opinion. What was I going to say about that? Yeah, so like I can't contort myself to be somebody that I'm not. And I can't contort myself to fit into the expectations of everyone else and the world, and I literally believe that your orientation or sexuality is something that you are born with. It's not something that you acquire over your lifetime. It's something that you're born with. And, I never felt the need to chase anybody. I never felt the need to be in a relationship with anybody. I still don't. I don't feel the need. And I don't have any desire to chase after anybody or, to be in any kind of relationship. That's just how I've always felt. And I'm not going to slap a label on it. And I'm not going to contort myself and be somebody that I'm not. Labels are just dumb, in my opinion. I don't like being categorized. I'm not going to apply labels to myself. Like, just be who you are. Why do we need to label everything?